Are you sure you want to meet? I understand, sometimes, the past is hard to forget. I'm sure, Daniel. I've held on to this pain for too long. I believe I'm ready to move forward. Eva stared at the message she had just sent, her heart pounding so loudly she could hear it in her ears. The blue bubble blinked back at her on the screen, waiting hanging. 3 little dots danced beneath her words, then vanished. Her chest tightened. It wasn't the first time Daniel had hesitated. Since they'd started talking 3 months ago, he'd always been thoughtful, careful with his words. And yet he felt closer to her than anyone had in years. His messages were gentle, supportive, like he understood the exact weight she carried, though she had never fully shared her story. A notification from Daniel, "I'll be there. Tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eva exhaled, shoulders relaxing as she replied with a simple, "Yes, I'll see you then." She tossed the phone onto her bed and pressed the heels of her hands into her eyes. What was she even doing? 3 years of grief, of aching loneliness, and now she was meeting a man she'd never seen in person. Daniel felt familiar, too familiar. The way he spoke, the way he listened, the way he remembered the little things she mentioned in passing, like her love for jazz on rainy days or how lavender tea calmed her before bed. But it wasn't just that. It was the way his words made her feel less broken. She hadn't shared much about Leo, just fragments. She couldn't bring herself to describe the full weight of what it had felt like to lose him so suddenly. One moment they were planning their wedding. The next he was gone in a collision with a drunk driver, leaving behind nothing but memories and a silver engagement ring she kept in a velvet box on her nightstand. The next evening arrived too soon. Eva stood in front of her bedroom mirror, smoothing the fabric of her navy blue dress. She had chosen something simple but elegant, not too formal. It felt strange to care about how she looked again. Her fingers brushed over her collarbone, where Leo's ring once hung on a chain. Tonight it was missing. A final glance. She was ready. The cafe was as cozy as Eva had imagined, with the soft glow of fairy lights reflecting off the dark wooden tables. The scent of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the sweetness of pastries, and the soft strains of a jazz saxophone hummed from the speakers above. It felt intimate, perfect for a first date, yet Eva's chest was tight, her pulse uneven. She sat by the window, fingers curling around the ceramic mug of lavender tea Daniel had ordered for her. He wasn't late this time, 7 o'clock sharp, but the minutes stretched endlessly as she waited. Then the door opened. Eva's breath caught. Daniel stood framed in the entrance, tall and composed. But it wasn't his posture or the way he scanned the room that left her speechless. It was his face. Oh my God. It was Leo. Or it felt like him. Same piercing blue eyes, the same strong jawline, even the way his dark hair fell slightly over his forehead. The resemblance was so startling, so exact, that her stomach twisted painfully. But it wasn't Leo. Leo was gone. She forced herself to exhale as he approached, a warm smile softening his features. "Eva?" His voice was gentle, slightly deeper than she remembered Leo's, but the cadence was hauntingly familiar. "Yes," she whispered, rising from her seat. For a heartbeat they stood there, neither moving. Then Daniel leaned in for a hug, not too close, just enough for his hand to graze her back briefly. The scent of his cologne, sandalwood and rain, washed over her, and her heart clenched. "Stop it, Eva. It's just a coincidence." She sat back down, pressing her hands into her lap, determined to stay composed. "Thank you for coming tonight," Daniel began, his eyes warm as he settled into the chair across from her. "I know meeting someone in person after only talking online can be nerve-wracking." Eva nodded, her voice struggling to find its place. "Yeah, but I'm glad we did this." A pause. Daniel's gaze lingered on her for a second too long, his expression unreadable. Then he smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. Eva felt the tension building beneath her skin, the weight of unspoken thoughts pressing against her ribcage. She had to ask. You look so familiar," she said finally, voice softer now but tinged with hesitation. "Have we met before? Or maybe you lived around here before?" Daniel's face shifted, but only slightly. His hand flexed on the table, the knuckles paling. He shook his head, offering a small, forced chuckle. "No, I don't think so. I grew up pretty far from here. It's probably just one of those weird coincidences." Coincidence. The word echoed hollowly in her mind. She nodded, trying to push it away, but her pulse wouldn't slow. There was something more. They talked, or at least Daniel did. He was easy to listen to with that smooth, steady voice. He spoke about his job in graphic design, his love for photography, how he often captured moments of nature during his hikes. But it was the details that sent chills down her spine. "And jazz always helps me focus when I'm working late nights," he said, leaning back as the music swelled in the cafe. Eva blinked. "Jazz?" She thought of the worn record player in Leo's old apartment, the way he'd hum along to the same slow saxophone melodies late at night while sketching in his notebook. "And I noticed they serve Belgian waffles here. I know it's a bit odd for dinner, but I couldn't resist. I love them, with extra whipped cream." Eva's heart stuttered. Leo. Belgian waffles. Leo's absolute favorite dessert. He used to insist on ordering them even on dinner dates, saying life was too short not to eat what you love. Coincidence again. Again. She felt the blood drain from her face. Daniel noticed, his brow furrowed. "Eva, you okay?" Her throat tightened. She felt like she was drowning in a storm of memories. It's impossible. It has to be impossible. The soft hum of the cafe seemed to dim as she looked at him, really looked at him this time. The shape of his lips, the crinkle near his eyes when he smiled. Leo, but not Leo. She couldn't hold it in any longer. "Daniel," her voice broke, quieter now, almost pleading. Do you know someone named Leo?" For the first time that evening, Daniel froze completely. The easy smile on his face faltered, his eyes widening, just for a heartbeat, before he masked it, glancing down at his hands. There, that hesitation. He knew. Eva felt the air thin between them. "Eva," Daniel said carefully, the warmth in his voice now replaced by something else. "No, I'm sorry. I don't. Should I?" But his voice was tight, defensive. Her heart pounded in her chest. The resemblance. The way he spoke. The way he knew things he shouldn't know. "Are you sure?" she whispered. Daniel held her gaze for a long moment, as if searching for the right words. Then he offered a soft, almost regretful smile. "I'm sure." But Eva wasn't. Not anymore. The night after the date, Eva lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling. The room was silent, but her mind was anything but. Fragments of the evening kept replaying, the way Daniel smiled, the familiarity in his voice, the way he seemed to know her in ways no stranger should. And then there was the way he had hesitated when she mentioned Leo. She turned to her side, pressing her hand against her chest, trying to quiet the ache blooming there. But memories she'd fought so hard to bury surged back, relentless and vivid. 3 years earlier. It had been a chilly autumn evening when Leo proposed. They were standing under the twinkling fairy lights of her parents' backyard, the scent of rain lingering in the air. He'd been so nervous, fumbling with the velvet box before dropping to one knee, his voice trembling as he whispered, "Eva, I can't imagine my life without you." She had said yes, of course. They were supposed to have forever. Until the call. The call that shattered everything. A drunk driver. A rain-slicked road. The words had blurred together in the officer's voice. Accident. Immediate. We did everything we could. Eva sat up abruptly, heart pounding as the pain gripped her again. But this time, it wasn't just grief. It was confusion. Daniel looked like Leo. Sounded like him. And the way he spoke about jazz, the waffles, the little things, too precise to be mere coincidence. And yet, Daniel had denied knowing him. There was something he wasn't telling her. By morning, Eva could no longer ignore the gnawing in her chest. She grabbed her laptop and pulled up Daniel's dating profile, scanning it with fresh eyes. No photos. That was strange, wasn't it? Not even a blurry selfie. Just a generic landscape image as his profile picture. And the bio, so vague. Graphic designer. Lover of jazz and the outdoors. Searching for someone genuine. It didn't add up. Eva bit her lip, closing the browser. Then, without fully thinking it through, she opened an old photo folder labeled Leo and Eva. The photos felt like reopening an old wound. Smiling snapshots from trips they had taken together, vineyards, the beach, lazy Sunday mornings on the couch. And then, near the bottom of the folder, she paused. A photo she had almost forgotten. It was from Leo's birthday party, taken years ago. Leo stood at the center, smiling with his arm around another man who looked exactly like him. Identical. Her breath caught. The other man's face was slightly more serious, his smile softer, but the resemblance was undeniable. She clicked the photo, enlarging it, heart racing as she scanned the background. And there it was. Written in Leo's neat handwriting on the back of the printed photo, Leo and Lucas, 28th birthday. Lucas. A twin brother. Eva's fingers trembled as she stared at the name. She remembered now brief mentions from Leo years ago. But they had been estranged. Some family falling out he never wanted to explain. Lucas. It couldn't be. Could it? By evening, Eva was done speculating. She needed answers. With trembling hands, she opened her phone and texted Daniel. Eva, hey, can we talk? Minutes passed. Then the screen lit up with an incoming video call from Daniel. She hesitated before answering, her reflection pale and anxious on the screen. Then, with a deep breath, she pressed accept. Daniel's face filled the screen. He was in his apartment, the lighting soft behind him. For a brief moment, his expression was calm, warm. Eva, he said softly. Everything okay? She stared at him. That same face. The same stormy blue eyes. But she wasn't here for pleasantries. Her voice was tight when she finally spoke. Who are you? Daniel blinked, confused. What do you mean? Her heart pounded. Don't lie to me. I need the truth. Are you Lucas? Silence. Daniel's lips parted, but no words came out. His gaze dropped slightly, avoiding hers, and that was all the confirmation she needed. Oh my God, she whispered, voice trembling. It is you. You're Leo's brother. Daniel exhaled slowly, pressing his fingers to his temple as if gathering his thoughts. Eva, please, let me explain. Explain. Her voice cracked. You lied to me. Pretended to be someone else. Do you have any idea how cruel that is? I've spent years trying to heal from losing him. And now. I wasn't trying to hurt you, Daniel interrupted, voice low but urgent. I never wanted to lie. I didn't know how else to reach you. Eva shook her head, tears burning at the corners of her eyes. Why? Why would you do this? Daniel hesitated, then spoke softly. I saw you at the funeral. The words felt like a punch to her chest. I didn't say anything. I had no right to. Leo and we weren't close anymore. But when I saw you, Eva, the way you looked so broken, he paused, voice thickening. I couldn't stop thinking about you. About how much he loved you. How much you meant to him. Eva stared at him, disbelief tangling with grief. So you what? Created a fake identity just to get close to me. To, what, replace him? Daniel shook his head fiercely. No, I didn't want to replace him. I wanted to help you. But I was scared that if you knew who I was, you'd never trust me. Eva's voice dropped to a whisper. You were right. Silence. Daniel's face crumpled with guilt, but he didn't speak. Finally, Eva exhaled shakily, gripping the phone tighter. I need some time, Daniel. I don't know if I can do this. And before he could respond, she ended the call. Her heart shattered all over again. A week passed. The silence between them was deafening. Eva hadn't answered his texts. She hadn't called. Not since that night. The revelation had torn open wounds she thought were finally beginning to heal. She didn't know what hurt more. The fact that Daniel, or rather Lucas, had deceived her, or the fact that a piece of her heart wanted to believe his intentions were pure. But trust was fragile. And he had shattered it. It was a stormy evening when the knock came. Eva sat curled on the couch, staring blankly at the rain streaking the window, lost in the ache that wouldn't quite leave her chest. When the sound repeated, more insistent this time, she hesitated. Then, slowly, she crossed the room and opened the door. Lucas stood there, soaked from the rain. His hair plastered to his forehead, his face pale, and his eyes, God, those eyes, were filled with something raw, vulnerable. Please, he said softly. Let me explain. One last time. Eva's fingers tightened around the edge of the door. I don't know if I can hear this right now. Please, his voice cracked. I need you to hear me. Silence stretched, the rain drumming softly behind him. Finally, she stepped aside. Lucas entered, his clothes dripping onto the hardwood floor. He made no move to sit. Neither did she. Start talking. He nodded, exhaling shakily. His hands trembled as he wiped rain from his face, gathering himself. I didn't lie to hurt you, Eva. I need you to know that. She folded her arms, jaw tight. You pretended to be someone else, Lucas. You let me. Her voice caught. You made me feel things for you, while hiding the truth. How is that not meant to hurt me? He closed his eyes, wincing. I know it seems that way, but I swear it wasn't like that. Then tell me what it was like, she whispered. Lucas swallowed hard, finally meeting her gaze. I left my family years ago, he began, voice hoarse. Leo and we had a falling out. It was my fault. I was young, angry, stubborn, and instead of fixing things, I ran. I cut ties with him, with everyone. I thought I could just start over somewhere new." He paused, voice trembling. "And then I got the call, the accident. I didn't even know he was gone until it was too late. I didn't get to say goodbye." Eva's chest tightened, but she remained silent. "I came back for the funeral," Lucas continued, voice raw. "I stayed at the back. I didn't belong there, not after what I did. But I saw you, standing there, completely broken. And he broke off, his breath shuddering. I couldn't bear it. I couldn't stop thinking about you afterward, about how much you must have loved him, about how much he loved you." Eva felt her throat tighten. She remembered that day, the ache so heavy she could barely breathe. Lucas shook his head, his voice barely above a whisper now. "I wanted to reach out. But how could I? I was the twin brother who abandoned him. I didn't deserve to be in your life. So I didn't." He stepped closer, his eyes searching hers. "But months passed, and I kept thinking you were grieving alone, and maybe I could help. Maybe I could just be there. So I made a profile. I didn't use my real name because I thought if you knew who I was, you'd push me away before I could even try. I know it sounds twisted, but I swear, Eva, I never wanted to deceive you. His voice broke. I just didn't know how else to be close to you without hurting you more." Eva's arms dropped to her sides, her head spinning. "You thought lying was better than the truth," her voice cracked. Lucas opened his mouth, then closed it, shaking his head. "I didn't think it through. I was scared. And the more I got to know you, the more I realized how incredible you are. And it stopped being about guilt or Leo. I fell for you, Eva. For you. Not just because you were Leo's fiancée. Not as some twisted attempt to replace him. I fell for you." Eva felt her breath hitch, emotions crashing over her like a wave, grief, anger, betrayal, but beneath it all, a deep, aching sorrow. Tears welled in her eyes as she whispered, "You should have told me, Lucas. You should have trusted me with the truth. You took away my choice. You made me feel like I was falling for someone who didn't even exist." Lucas's face crumpled. "I know, and I hate myself for that. But I swear every moment I spent with you was real. Every word, every smile. I never faked how I felt." A sob escaped her lips before she could stop it. "How do I know that? How do I believe you?" Lucas's voice broke. "Because I'm standing here, Eva, and I'm not hiding anymore." Silence hung between them, thick and unbearable. Finally, he stepped back, voice quieter now. "I won't force you to forgive me. I don't deserve it. But I needed you to know the truth. I needed you to know that you were never just some connection to my brother. You're everything I never thought I deserved. And I'm sorry I hurt you." Eva couldn't speak. Her heart ached with too much pain, loss, confusion. But as Lucas turned toward the door, shoulders slumping, something deep inside her whispered that this wasn't just pain. It was the truth. And it still mattered. The days that followed were filled with silence. Eva deleted his number, blocked his messages. She needed space, needed to think, to breathe. But even as she tried to shut him out, the ache lingered, raw and relentless. At night she would lie awake, replaying their conversations, the way he looked at her with such tenderness. The way his voice had cracked when he told her the truth. And worse, the way she had felt when he left that night, soaked and broken, walking away without a fight. She wanted to be angry. And she was. But beneath the anger was something far heavier. Loss. Betrayal. And the unbearable truth that she had begun to care for him, not because he reminded her of Leo, but because he wasn't Leo. A week passed. Then, a letter arrived. She found it tucked beneath her door one rainy morning, the envelope slightly damp from the mist. Her name was scrawled across the front in handwriting she didn't recognize at first, neat but hesitant. Her fingers trembled as she unfolded the pages inside. "Eva, I don't deserve your forgiveness, I know that. But I need you to understand why I did what I did. Leo and I were close once. As children we were inseparable, the kind of twins who felt everything together. Every scraped knee, every shared bedtime story, every birthday candle, he was my best friend. But as we grew older, things changed. Leo was perfect, the golden child. He made friends easily. He never had to try as hard as I did. I always felt like I was standing in his shadow. The worst part, he never saw me as less. I was the one who pulled away. I was the one who let my own insecurities build a wall between us. We argued. About stupid things. College careers. I wanted to prove I could be something without him. So I left. I stayed away for years, too stubborn to reach out, too proud to admit I missed him. And then I got the call. I didn't even know he was gone until it was too late. I missed the last years of his life, Eva. I missed knowing he had found you. I missed seeing the way he loved you, because I know he did. I saw it in the photos at his funeral. I saw it in your face when you stood there, trying so hard to hold yourself together when it was so clear you were shattered. I stayed in the background because I didn't belong there. I had failed him. I had failed both of you. But the pain didn't go away. I kept thinking, if I couldn't make peace with Leo, maybe I could find a way to be there for you. I know that sounds selfish. It was selfish. When I created the dating profile, I didn't expect you to respond. And when you did, I didn't expect you to be so real. So kind. So strong, despite everything. I fell for you, Eva, not because you loved my brother. Not because of guilt, but because of the way you see the world. The way you make people feel safe. The way you made me feel seen for the first time in years. But I took that from you. I lied. And for that I am so deeply sorry. If you never want to speak to me again, I will respect that. But you deserve to know the truth, even if it costs me the chance to know you. With all my regret. Lucas. The letter blurred as Eva's tears slipped onto the paper, smudging the ink. She pressed it against her chest, heart twisting. He had bared his soul, not just his guilt, but his pain, his regret. And she hated how much it hurt to feel his pain. She wanted to stay angry. She wanted to cling to the betrayal, the deception. But she couldn't. Because somewhere along the way, she had let Lucas into her heart. Not as Leo's reflection, but as himself. Days passed. Eva tried to lose herself in routine, work, errands, empty conversations with friends who didn't know the whole story. But nothing felt real. Lucas haunted her thoughts. The sincerity in his voice. The sadness behind his smile. The way he had held back, as though he didn't believe he deserved to be loved. She didn't know if she could trust him again. But she knew, deep down, that she had never felt this kind of connection before. Not even with Leo. One evening, unable to bear the silence any longer, Eva found herself standing in front of the old box of keepsakes tucked in her closet. She hadn't opened it since Leo's funeral. Slowly, she lifted the lid. Photographs, cards, ticket stubs, and at the very bottom Leo's worn leather journal, the one he had carried everywhere. She hesitated before opening it, her fingers brushing over the embossed initials on the cover. And there, scrawled on the inside page, was a note she had never noticed before. If anything ever happens to me, I hope you find happiness again. Please don't close your heart. You deserve more than grief. A single tear traced down her cheek as she pressed the journal to her chest, the ache shifting. Maybe, just maybe, Lucas wasn't here to replace Leo. Maybe he was here to help her keep that promise. And maybe she was ready to let him. Months had passed. The winter chill had softened into the gentler warmth of spring. The pain no longer consumed Eva the way it once had, but the ache lingered quieter, subtler. A shadow that stayed, reminding her of both love and loss. She hadn't seen Lucas since the letter. At first the space felt necessary. Healing required distance, clarity. But as time passed, that space felt more like absence. Because as much as she had tried to bury her feelings, they resurfaced in the quiet moments, the way he had looked at her, the honesty in his words, the vulnerability in his confession. Lucas hadn't been perfect, but he had been real. And perhaps, Eva thought, she hadn't been entirely fair either. Because when she looked back, truly looked back, she realized that Lucas hadn't just reminded her of Leo. He had shown her parts of himself, parts Leo never had. The pain, the regret, the longing. Lucas had become someone entirely separate in her heart. Not a reflection. Just him. It was a Sunday afternoon when the letter arrived. Not another apology. Just a single line of text on cream-colored paper. Meet me tonight, 7 p.m., the place where he proposed. Please. No explanation. No promises. But somehow, Eva knew this wasn't about the past anymore. The old garden was just as she remembered. Strings of warm fairy lights looped gently through the trees, casting a soft glow across the grass. The scent of blooming lilacs drifted on the breeze, and somewhere distant, the low hum of music played, soft instrumental jazz. The last time she had stood here, Leo had been on one knee. The memory no longer cut as deeply, but it still lingered like a bittersweet whisper. Tonight, though, the garden felt different. Softer. Lucas stood near the old stone archway, hands tucked nervously into his coat pockets. His eyes met hers as she approached, and for a long moment, neither of them spoke. She could see the vulnerability in his gaze, the same quiet longing she had seen that night in the rain. But something else was there, too. Hope. Eva. His voice was steady but soft. Thank you for coming. She nodded, her arms crossed, not out of anger but to steady herself. Why here, Lucas? Why now? He exhaled, then reached into his coat, pulling out a folded photograph. Without a word, he held it out to her. Eva hesitated, then took it carefully. The edges were slightly worn, the colors faded, but she recognized it instantly. It was a picture she had never seen before, her Leo and Lucas. She remembered the day faintly now, some summer afternoon long ago, all smiles and laughter. Leo's arm around her shoulder, Lucas standing just off to the side, a more reserved smile on his face. But it wasn't the photo that made her breath catch. It was the message written on the back, in Leo's handwriting. If anything happens to me, take care of her, please. Eva pressed the photo to her chest, a sob catching in her throat. Lucas's voice was quiet when he spoke. I found that after he died. I never showed it to you because I didn't want you to feel like I was here out of obligation. But Eva, I need you to understand. His voice broke slightly, but he pushed through. I didn't fall for you because of him. I didn't stay because of him. I stayed because you showed me what it means to love someone with your whole heart. I stayed because you make me want to be better. Eva looked up at him, tears streaming silently down her cheeks. His gaze didn't waver. I know I hurt you. And I won't blame you if you can't forgive me. But I couldn't keep this from you anymore. He swallowed hard. You deserve the truth. And you deserve someone who will love you for you, not because you remind them of the past. And that's what I feel, Eva. I love you. Not the memory of who you were with Leo. You. The words hung there, raw and trembling. Eva's heart felt as though it had cracked wide open. Because in that moment, she realized the pain she had been holding on to wasn't just about Leo. It was the fear of losing again. Of trusting someone only to watch them disappear. But Lucas hadn't disappeared. Even when she pushed him away. Even when it hurt. And wasn't that what love was? Not perfect. Not painless. But real. Eva stepped closer, her voice barely above a whisper. Lucas, I was so scared. I was scared of losing Leo again. Scared that if I let you in, I'd lose you too. But the truth is, I never fell for Leo's reflection. I fell for you. The way you made me feel safe. The way you stayed. I tried to convince myself I wasn't ready, but I think I was just afraid. Lucas's breath caught, his eyes glassy with unshed tears. You don't have to be afraid, he whispered. I know, she answered softly. Not anymore. And when she closed the distance between them, when their hands finally intertwined, it wasn't about Leo anymore. It wasn't about loss. It was about healing. And hope. And the beginning of something new. As Eva and Lucas stood together beneath the twinkling fairy lights, their hands intertwined, it was clear that this was no longer a story about loss. It was a story of healing, forgiveness, and the courage to open one's heart again. Because sometimes, love doesn't arrive the way we expect. Sometimes, it finds us in the most unexpected places, after pain, after grief, reminding us that even the deepest wounds can give way to new beginnings. If this story touched your heart, imagine how many more stories of love, resilience, and healing are waiting to be discovered. Subscribe to Soul-Stirring Stories for more heartfelt tales that inspire, move, and remind us all of the beauty of human connection. Don't forget to like, share, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a story that might just change your life. Thank you for being part of our storytelling family. Stay strong, stay hopeful, and keep believing in the power of love.